Yeah, okay. Let's start. Map components for your web map application. So our developers say maybe it's not direct. We will say, okay, you can do this with your web map application. No, not this way, this way. Okay, so where I'm from the German WER Group. It's a consulting sparring partner for planning, migration, implementation of all types of spatial information systems. So that's the background information why we are doing this project of map components. We are still many nerds for geoinformation technology and have 4 offices in Germany. I'm Mathias Gröbe, and if you look here on the bars, you will see I'm not really into web development, but we have to decide who go where, and I have to say, okay, I have to do this presentation. Don't judge me for every detail. I will try to give my best to explain you what are map components. So in general, it's a combination of MapLibre JS and React. That's are 2 frameworks we try to put together. So MapLibre is mainly for rendering the map, it's for styling, it's for rendering the vector tiles and the raster tiles, so it's the focus of MapLibre. React, it brings the UI components for web apps. So web apps is the interesting things here. We want to build web apps. So it's a framework for building standard web pages, progressive web apps, mobile apps, where we have this combination for. It needs only a browser to run, and it's suitable for small screens, for big screens, whenever you want, and it can work online or offline. So, maybe a bit more about the structure of the presentation. At first, I want to give you an answer why another web mapping framework. Last year, this question arose. When we will deeper look inside how it works, I want to try to give you some examples, the map components, how you can start if you want to try it, an outlook, and what you can do with map components. So why just one more web mapping framework? There are already so many. Let's try me to explain why and what's different from map components. If you're looking here, Mapfish, GeoX, MapBender, GeoNode, it's wild mixed. Usually they are built on top of open layers. Open layers is great, but we have some disadvantages. If you're going for vector tiles, you say, okay, open layers can render vector tiles, but you have not the standard styling. You have the own styling. You have no hardware acceleration. So it's really good if we start with something new, not map layers, so that we use the MapLibre. So these applications are made as standalone app site where you can say, okay, you can install GeoMoose, Mapfish, and build your application on this. The idea of map components is that you have a framework where you can build your own application. You can't install map components. You have to configure it by yourself. It brings the tools for building your own user interface built up on React, which makes it pretty easy build. It's also open source software where you can start with. There are already some similar projects. There are direct MapGL by Uber, who need this also for their apps to order the next car or whatever meanwhile. But we had gone so far. Similar also Terrestis had direct Geo idea, but don't drive so far. Who knows React? Okay. Should I skip this? Okay, when I skip this. It's a framework for building user interfaces. It's maybe the reason why are you here. So why we are seeing it's map components. We don't want to build a new map bender. That's something like the traditional map layer, open layers approach for like building a geoportal and spare, like you have your print layout, you have feature information, the full stack information. The map components are made for mobile apps where you can put visualization with charts built with React. You don't need a backend. You can program it only. We'll say it's just an app. It's not an application, and maybe you can build something like a map components. It's more for the custom functions and not relies on layer and service the traditional GIS stuff. So what are the advantages more or less of map components? which I'm trying to ask, it makes easy to prototype a map-centric app where, okay, you have this app and you have mainly seeing on this map app just a map with information where you can focus on the data. You have to don't to worry what is the user's device. It's a Mac, it's a Windows, it's a Linux running iOS, whatever. And you can use by the React framework the already known UI components that you have. Works also offline with the service workers. So if you want to build your app, you have at one this map context, which is more or less the central point of all these components, and where everything else components. Where you start, okay, you have this MapLibre, which is the starting point because you want to have a map. Otherwise, we are not here. We are talking always of this geospatial thing. And you can add or remove more things starting from this point. So, and the components are responsible for altering the MapLibre instance by extending their functions. So, each component does it ends. If you have this simple components, you have, okay, maybe if you open it in a browser, you have this map where you can scroll around and nothing more. But what you really want to have is something like maybe, this navigation tools. Maybe if you want to measure something, maybe you want to have a PDF export, what you can configure. That is possible with the map components. Let's bring these features that you may know from these classical open layers-based things to an app where you can use it in the same way. So you see here we have the PDF export component. You find it back on the screenshots, the measure tools, the navigation tools on the map, and as well the map. So we have already developed some components, So the PDF export, you have seen you can edit some features, you can extrude the buildings maybe, or other features, whatever you want. It makes the most sense with the buildings. You have this GPS tracker where you can add a component which shows your position, the accuracy with the circle. Maybe you can add a GeoJSON feature or the GPX viewer where you can load the GPX file. You can look here at the URL, where is a demo page, that there is for each component a demonstration how it works. So, more or less a short overview of the components. The core is the map context and the MapLibre, and there are some more components like features for displaying geodata. It's the maps, hooks, functionalities that are separate from the UI standards used, built-in components directly in your app. There comes the React stuff into play, or UI components that you can add, buttons, layer lists, what you need for application in overall. So you can also custom these things. Here maybe is one component in detail. You can say, okay, you have to create PDF component, you add this. If you're looking at the documentation, that's always, we try to explain it as good as possible, what you have to define, to add this to an app. You have the map idea, the from control styles, where the styles comes from, and what happens on create on the PDF. You have a similar documentation on this web page for each component that only needs a few options. We try to make it very simple, and we always provide also a code snippet to get started. It's so a side project for our web developers. We'll say, okay, if we have some time and we try to get better, we are going further with the map components. And you can always use these things separately, the PDF preview, the PDF form, the use export map if you want and if you need it. You can just use also individually, like if you say, okay, I want to have a preview like this, I have to render something on the app. When you get here a preview for fun map styles someone created, you say, okay, I want to have a typical Zelda colors map style or Groovy grind marked dark colors. That's possible. if you're getting started, okay, I think it's not so important. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, it's necessary. It should be no React, but the most of it you can. And where more probably the links are the interesting things where you can say, okay, start with the examples where you have this play box on the sandbox where you don't need to look on the dependencies, where you can see, okay, just add the components but you need what you want to try, and you have this starting point with this already running application that I've shown with the single map component and the navigation just running. Yeah, we're already using these things in production, like for the Mara project, this was for the last year, where you can see the interaction or the mobility views, better to say, between some regions in Germany, where you say, okay, we want to visualize this. Sadly, this version is not freely available, so I can show you only a screenshot of it. So it's highly interactive, where you can configure on which day, which people traveling where, how, on which hour, you can animate it. And you can see also, if you want to say the income or outcome, where the people come from. What's possible to try also for you is the FLIK-Suche. It's about, agriculture. And we get some funding to work there, and it's online on this URL where you browse around. There are two different kinds. It's more like meadows or arable land. It's the blue and the red one, and where you can take the look at the FLIK number, then how it's used. It's developed using the map components and uses vector tiles for the rendering of these features here. But it makes more interactive and also the search function easier. So, may I try to give you a short outlook? We want to focus and try to keep it simple, but may is sometimes a backend infrastructure needed. If you need something like an authentication in your app, or maybe an API for getting GeoJSON features to render it. We have proposed that this will be Python or Django-based backend. You can also add a backend for the authentication. Maybe if you say, okay, not everyone should see every content in the app. We have customers like energy management that we want to protect the information, that not everyone can see every information and stop things working. Should be also add a configuration component, the digitizer tools should be improved, and the interaction with more sensors. So we're looking forward to go with this project, and I can say we're looking for other people who to use this, to give us feedback. Everything is open on GitHub. There's a web page where you can scroll around, try something in the sandbox. So it should be hopefully easy to start with for you with the map components.